there was numerous junior teams. The majority of them were here in Saskatoon. Bigger had a team. There was a team down south in Assiniboia back in the 70s, first part of the 80s. That most of it graduated into being senior that played also against the Edmonton teams at that point in the 70s and 80s. And then for a long stretch, there was nothing back until I think 82 was the last year. Maybe 83 was the last year that somebody went to the Presidents. And then there was nothing for quite a few years. There was a team that was sent to Founders Junior B Championship sometime in the 80s. But other than that, there was nothing really that had formal league or anything in Saskatchewan.
Let's see. I guess I got involved back in 1996 when there was a grand total of 2 box lacrosse teams in the province, Moose Jaw and Regina. We worked our way through that, and of course, as we went, there was more and more teams that that joined, and pretty soon we had provincial titles, etc. But there was still nothing after midget for the guys to play, so there was a huge issue for kids who loved the game that wanted to continue playing.
Well, when I first started was in 99 or so. I mean, it was pretty small sport. There was really just field lacrosse. There wasn't much for box lacrosse at all. So even for kids, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for kids to play. So I believe the kind of expansion of lacrosse really started to take off when the Toronto Rock National Lacrosse League team started showing on, I believe it was Sportsnet at the time, and then maybe even TSN, but they really started airing a lot of the games, and it was just people got to see it and how exciting it was. And that just started to really create some interest in the sport, especially at the youth level. And I believe, again, it just wasn't starting a box across. At that point, we did have it in Regina and Moose Jaw, but that was it.
Basically, I guess 1998, I met with Curt Keil and started up Saskatoon Box Lacrosse, and our season was in 99. And we were graduating so many players, and, knowing the Founders Cup years previous, from when I played, it was, how are we going to get a team there? And Curt and I met and started talking about getting the juniors together. And
I feel like the sport really took off when we were able to get Saskatoon going. It just kind of became a launching pad for a lot of other minor lacrosse throughout the province. So,
we had a bunch of good, talented players here in Saskatoon. There's tons in Regina, the Ryan brothers. And, there was a bunch of kids coming out of Moose Jaw and Yorkton that were still in the midget programs and going to be graduating in a few years. So we started talking about it and, getting things going and moving things forward. And
I think if I have to recall, our numbers of players playing in the whole province when I started was under 500. So very small. And about 8 years later, when I left, we were closer to 3,000. So it grew about 500-600% over about a 8 to 9 year time frame.
At the time, we went around, and there wasn't a whole bunch of interest in reestablishing a junior league here in the province. So I drove around and went up to Big River and met with Mr. Blampin and a few others up there, and he's originally from Ontario, so he all knew about it, and a few of the other guys up in that area. So nobody in PA. So guys like Javen and them went and played in Big River to participate as a junior later on in their career. And then I went down to Assiniboia to somebody that my dad knew, and we ended up firing up a group out of there. So there was 4 teams in the league the first year, and that was Assiniboia, Big River, Saskatoon, and Regina. So it was a good tournament, or a good season, and we never had a final, and but it was good to get everything established and get everything going.
Well, I think it was important to give youth the opportunity to play the sport they loved, and for many of my players, it kept them at home in Moose Jaw. It's a single reason that a lot of them stayed here.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it lagged some of the minor lacrosse by a couple years, but we just felt really that there needed to be somewhere for them to aspire to go as far as a junior league. And we've seen the success of the junior leagues in other provinces throughout Canada. BC, Ontario, and even Alberta was starting to have some good success with their junior leagues.
Well, there was no place really for our players to go. And at the time, I mean, you were looking at, you know, I could see the future going ahead, even for my own son, Curtis, and some of the other players around here, like Michael Paul and, I mean, Kenny Stewart, David Mitchell, all of that group in there, Chris Lysenko. I mean, there was tons of those kids that we were looking at throughout the province. And I said to Curt, I said, I mean, they're not going to stick around. They're going to end up going and playing somewhere else because we don't have anything for us to offer to them.
So we just felt like there's needed to be somewhere to go. We kind of looked at even the Saskatchewan Junior Hockey League and looked at the success of that league in Saskatchewan. Kind of from a marketing and a community standpoint, just felt like if we can kind of create something that at least models that, obviously not to the same degree, hockey versus lacrosse, but we felt like it would really help expand the sport, even from a marketing standpoint, and just give people something to aspire to, show lacrosse or box lacrosse at a higher level. So we really, I guess we just felt like those were some key points to, creating that junior league from a marketing standpoint, but also for something for the kids who were just starting minor lacrosse to kind of look up to and aspire to.
And we just had to give the opportunity for these kids to continue playing, knowing that eventually they still would be moving on to junior A or senior A or wherever they needed to go to continue on. In 1999, the big push was with the, Toronto Rock was all over TSN, and there was a big push across Canada for the growth of the, in the growth of the game. And you're seeing kids from all ages joining. But, we here in Saskatoon had a ton of kids in that, last year Bantam first year midget group in 99. And we knew that, we would have enough to field one team in the next couple of years of junior players. Otherwise, basically, we were going to lose those guys.
And it also gave an opportunity for some of the adult players to continue playing because there was nothing for senior level too. I think specifically of the Regina Heat, which was the only senior team when we first started up. But so it just gave that opportunity for everyone to continue playing throughout their lives.
I would say definitely it was, I'm trying to think now, even back, struggles early on. I mean, I think the first year was 4 teams. So, we made do with that. But I mean, the next level of expansion really got us, I think we doubled in teams fairly quickly. So that created some legitimacy. But I know just early on, there was really no policies, procedures, and we really had to work on that and fine tuning and put a little bit more structure around the league as far as consistency.
There was, probably travel, budgets, some of the logistics, etc. At some points, fielding enough players because of work commitments and that. These kids are getting, they're not kids anymore. A lot of them, they have jobs and that. And of course, they have girlfriends and that. So that was a challenge at times. I remember going to Saskatoon a couple times with 8 players, including my midget pickup. So, but overall, I'd say the league got off to a good start. And I mean, as witnessed by the growth over the next few years, it became very successful.
Well, I think the biggest thing is getting the full involvement from all the teams and everybody, because it was a new thing and nobody knew, how it was going to work with travel. And, there wasn't a lot of that at the time. I mean, minor provincials was mostly focused in the South. There was hardly any teams there was no teams in box in the North. So basically all the teams were, in the South for minor. And, in 99, we took some teams down in minor, and I believe it was in Moose Jaw. I'm pretty sure it was in Moose Jaw because they had the base. They were using the base that year because we brought down a whole bunch of teams. And we knew that it was going to be, the next step. But it was tough because, not everybody could believe that we could get kids to travel. They didn't believe that, a lot of this stuff was going to move forward. And they were hesitant to get fully involved with it. And I think that's why we never did have a provincial final at the end of the year for the PGLL the first year. But, as that first year started to go and everybody started to become more comfortable with it just eased up the tension and the worry and the success of what it was going to be. They had a lot of the players had never played their whole career in lacrosse either. So, there was worries about, is this going to turn into a brawl? Is this going to turn into all kinds of trouble? What's it all going to look like in the end?
Yeah, there's literally we had maybe a couple experienced box lacrosse refs in the whole province, and all of a sudden you're starting a junior league of 21 and under. These are kids who are young adults who are not afraid to, sometimes get a little bit into some scuffles, and they're playing very hard and competitively, and you just don't have the referees who have the same level of expertise because the sport was pretty much brand new. So it definitely created some challenges early on. We really knew we had to grow that referee base and even the coaching as well. Again, there wasn't a lot of experienced coaches that were able to handle coaching, junior age athletes. So I'd say almost the athletes were there sooner than the structure around it, which was really just the quality of the coaching and officiating had to improve to match what really quickly developed into the athletes. I mean, they really probably came along even faster.
Well, I would say yes, in some ways. We were concerned about some of the clubs, having enough players and having enough minor base to, a strong enough minor base to actually carry into the junior ranks and sustain a junior team. But
it's gone through its iterations. When I watch the games now, it's definitely, they've split the senior teams because we have enough senior teams that they have their own now. But back then, of course, we played the senior teams. I'd say the average age of the kids or the players has gone down quite a bit. Almost a lot of teams are feeling almost intermediate players, especially with the SWAT program running. But established in the league, I got to tip my hat to Randy Trobak. He was a catalyst for starting what was then the SMBLA, Sask Major Box Lacrosse Association. So before we became the PGLL.
I would suggest that, we had a vision, again, maybe a little bit of that modeling of the SJHL and playing in some arenas and having a lot of fans. So certainly we had those goals, again, creating right away a brand, which was the PGLL, and creating a logo and some marketing. And we immediately had started some t-shirts, I think even in the first couple of years. So I would suggest the vision was pretty grand. And, 20 years later, if I was still involved, I'd say we're probably not where we want to be yet. But it's been a process, very successful, amazing that it's lasted this long. But I think, like anything, you always want to see it grow and improve.
But there's a lot of people, Bruce Pepperty in Regina, Bob Sullivan with the Smash, Dale Burner and Brent Adams down in the Assiniboia are really important. Brian Blampin in Big River, Brent Wilczynski in Swift Current, and of course later on the group from York that started the Bulldogs, and I think that was led by Wayne Teal, who actually started out here in Moose Jaw as helping us coach. So he took that out there.
We definitely felt that it would carry on, and our hope was to get it to senior eventually, because right after the first year we talked about senior and how important it would be to keep guys playing, because that's our future coaches and referees and organizers for clubs moving on into the future.
Some of my best memories are, and I'm on Facebook, and the only single reason I'm on Facebook is because of my kids and all my players. It's a way we stay in touch. So it's been really neat seeing these they get married, they go on to other jobs. I think the second they were ineligible to play because of age, probably 2/3, 3/4 of the team left Moose Jaw for jobs or university or something. That's how tight this team was. They stayed here for each other and to win championships.
I just enjoyed the growth of it, and maybe it was year 2, year 3, and seeing some of those rivalries. And early on, some of the competitive, if we want to talk another challenge, was some of the competitiveness in the league. We had a couple small centers, and there was such a diverse range of athletes and experience. So, it wasn't always common that we would have competitive games. And as the league grew, we were able to split it into 2 tiers. I'm not even entirely sure where it's at now, but seeing even year 2, year 3, some of those competitive games that started to happen. The first 2, I think, were Yorkton and even Moose Jaw. And Yorkton certainly had a strong component of Sturgis, who had played lacrosse a lot longer, more on the field lacrosse mantra. But then seeing Saskatoon really develop fairly quickly, it created in the league 3 really strong teams that you weren't sure who was gonna compete. So just watching some of those battles in probably year 2 or 3, it was kind of like, hey, this is something. This is exciting. And then obviously seeing some of the other centers develop in time, like Prince Albert and Swift Current, because they were new to lacrosse, they took a few more years to catch up. But just seeing the competitiveness of the league improve over the years was really something that, was proud to see.
Stories, ones I can share. Yeah, I've got lots of stories. Wouldn't be prudent to share some of them, but I've got a few. Championships are always memorable.
Oh, there's lots, but the first years of showing up and the very first game road trip for us was down to Assiniboia, and we showed up, and it was a massive rainstorm, and it was quite the sight down in their arena. There was big holes through the roof of the arena, so there was tons of water on the floor, and it was quite a nightmare, actually, to be honest. But the group down in Assiniboia did an amazing job, and we ended up getting the game mostly off and moving forward. And there was all kinds of things that happened over the years. We had some intense games between us and Yorkton and us and Moose Jaw over the years, of course, and lots of controversy in some of those games, and lots of excitement. And
the 2 I think that meant the most. The first one was really important in 2003, but I think the next year when we went to overtime with the Smash, I think Ken scored with not much time left in the third to send to overtime, and we end up scoring 2 goals in the overtime, and they came back, and Curtis Batomi scored one to make it close to the end. But no one's ever seen the Kinsman Arena here packed as it was that night. It was a really loud house.
I do remember a few games kind of getting a little bit crazy down in the old Moose Jaw Arena, and the intensity never stopped. But Barry had a great team down there, and without a doubt the best team in the province for 5 years. And everybody came into that barn wanting to take one away from them. So, and we did once, and it was an amazing game. But yeah, it was a tough battle all the way through.
And the second, I think, championship that really stands out was the one against Yorkton in 2004. It was the first time there was a best of 3 series. And that was, I think, the first game. That was the first game we ever lost, was game 2 of that series.
All the way through those, years with the PGLL were fun. They were exciting. You never knew what was going to happen. We had great organizers. I remember when Wayne Teal had the group in Yorkton there, and they were televising the games and the excitement that it was around it. And, and that was the first big crowd that, basically any of our players had played in front of. And, it was exciting to keep everybody calm and getting them focused and ready to go to play. So,
stories. Regina Heat, May 24th, 05. And all of our games against the Heat were tough. Some would say they're dirty on both sides. And it's the first time I've ever, and only time my team's been in 3 fights in a single game. And I have to say, we won all 3 fights with 2 of Regina players left bleeding on the court. So, it's interesting that, some people say what's changed in the league these days. Well, I don't think the league is as tough as it used to be, especially when the senior teams were in there. They kept us honest for sure.
Lots of memories. So Mr. Lysenko running up the floor, picking up the ball in his own end from behind the net, scooping it up and cutting across. And by the time everybody looked, he was down there shooting on John Paul and, causing quite the storm. So
PGLL, my entire time in lacrosse has been a blessing to me, in passing, when you look back in your life, I've retired last August. I look back on my work career, family, things I've, wanted to accomplish and maybe have or haven't. The one word I have is content. I'm content with my life. And one of the biggest reasons would be lacrosse. A courageous game has given me far more than I've ever given it. So, and my time in a PGL was probably the icing on the cake at playing at that level. But I'm coaching U8, U5, and U13 this year. So in the fields. So knees aren't liking it, but no, love the sport, love the courageous game. Great people involved. But when you say PGLL, the name synonymous is always going to be Randy Trobak to me. Without Randy, it wouldn't have gone. So thanks to Randy.
There's all kinds of things that happened over the years that, were very, very, very exciting and happy to be a part of.